And welcome to Tech and Test with me, Peter Johnson. On the show today, we have Oksana Kovalchuk. Oksana, welcome to the show.
Hi, guys.
Do you want to introduce yourself to the Tech and Test audience?
Yeah, of course. I'm also from the QI team. I started 18 years ago my journey as a quality assurance engineer and then moved to the development. And for last 12 years, I'm running my own agency with the development and UI UX design expertise.
Awesome. So basically, you're the CEO of another design agency, to put it in very simple terms.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And something you mentioned to me just as we were getting ready to record was AI. We're talking about AI and who's going to be replaced by AI, right? And I think this is is a really good question because I think as we go with more and more AI, we're talking about AI being everywhere and loads of jobs. And there is a big fear that's coming out. I think the godfather of AI is mentioned, with this kind of technology is going to create loads of job layoffs or people will be, people think jobs will change and some people think jobs will just go. And what's your opinion on whose role is likely to go and who's likely to be impacted by AI?
Yeah, the AI, in the same time, AI walks with huge leaps forward and bring this world to the next stage. To be honest, while we have no quantum computing or anything else, it's hard to make the progress. But AI here really to make things different. We can, I don't know, for sure differentiate eras before AI and after AI. So right now, today, article that we've spoken about, it's about replacing agents in call centers everywhere. To be
Mm.
honest, how useful for you was that call center agents recently?
It's a very good point. I'm just thinking today, I had an issue with my bank, and I had to message a chatbot to start the conversation. And eventually, many hours later, a human did get back to me. But the key thing here is a human did get back to me. The AI response did not satisfy my needs. So it's interesting that we're seeing this shift where intelligence, I think before, if we sort of take a step back, muscle, people used to, muscle, like in terms of horses or humans digging holes, there was people doing that work. And then with the Industrial Revolution, with motor cars and with all these other things, that work has now been given to machines, right? There's now, HGV diggers that dig up. There's no more as many humans digging holes because that can easily be done by a machine. So now I think we're entering this other world where some intelligence is being replaced, and where does it stop? That's the question, right? The question I need to ask is, if someone's going to be starting their career, where should they start? Should they be a plumber? Because that's less likely to be replaced by AI.
Of course, all this profession, like plumber, everything around, hand building, it's impossible to replace. But in the same time, in Japan, they built whole house with 3D printer in 2 days. So it not so AI, but technology is somewhere here. Um, from one side, I can understand the business because hire person you need to pay to recruiting agency. Guys, it's around 12%. It's even let's say in very low very rare situation, it's like around 12% of your year's salary. So month and half, employer gonna pay to recruit an agency for you. If it's something like engineer or some really job posting that requires a lot of attention, they will pay even 1 year's salary to the recruiting agency. And just imagine when you need to hire, you opened a new business. Let's say we open with you, I don't know, Korean cosmetics beauty shop. And we need some customer support where a customer can call and say, hey, where is my order? Oh, something came broken. And all these like outsourcing call centers, they have scripts. They're not thinking out of the box. If there is a situation which needs to be
Yeah.
escalated, they will connect you with the manager. But all these people that follow in the script, and to be honest, in 99% of situations, they can't be helpful,
Mm.
he will be replaced. So I think if your job requires to follow you some very strict script, so there is zero creativity, zero input from you, your brother will be replaced.
Yeah, I agree. And that could even open up to people like legal assistants or anyone that is potentially doing some element of, input and output, right? So following some rules and then producing some output. And I kind of think that work is already happening. I saw some figures where like, hiring of like new grads is kind of gone. It was significantly reduced. So these are sort of like university leavers leaving university for their first job. And typically maybe some of this work would have been done by some of these people. And it looks like now companies like the big, PwCs and all these big, like large consultant companies have gone straight to using agents. They've just kind of skipped that step of getting grads to do that work. So it does kind of open up the question of what should a new grad do? What skills are important for the next era of like this sort of AI wave, right? And
Mhm.
equally, another way of looking at it, right, is how many people are going to be displaced from AI, and what does that mean for our society? Because there's going to be a larger divide between rich and poor within society. And generally, if a society is good, you don't have this big, vast divide between rich and poor because that creates a whole bunch of issues. So it does make me wonder what's going to happen because I think AI will create this divide and people who are using AI will be generating more revenue, but that revenue may not come back to people who are not using AI from that person that's been laid off because their role has now been taken by AI. So it does open up all these big, large questions that no one has the answer to, right? And I think there's a lot of like AI safety here that it's not really been discussed widely enough.
Yeah, definitely. So I think if you're not using creative thinking or just thinking some kind of out of the box, you will be replaced. Like if you're not doing something very manual, you will be replaced. But even for something manual, we're working with Amazon, one of their vendors for the robotics. So what they doing? They already creating robots who sort the parcels. They can move things around. They can do sorting, refunds, everything. All these processes already automated. And if you will check like our website that everybody's now techlayos.com, you will see how many people Amazon lay off. But in
Mm,
time, they are not technical. To be honest, like in United States, Amazon is the same as like a McDonald's. It's a place for like students, for immigrants to find the very first job because you need to follow strict instruction. But just see what's going on. Like order the McMeal and you see like, okay, French fries, the same. They just put in potato by the timer. They move it out step by step,
mm,
fulfilling the orders. Like line with creating hamburgers, the same. It's like, it's just we in one single very, very small step for this to be automated.
mm.
But I think McDonald's doesn't move there just for avoid the reputation risks. But there is like even no technical issues as to replace them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And maybe they are doing that for, to get to kind of resonate with their brand. They don't want to be that brand that.
Mhm,
But if you think about McDonald's, like their journey originally was the reason they could like create fast food really quickly was because they adopted technology really quickly. And
mhm,
they sort of automated as much of the process as possible. So I think you're right. It wouldn't surprise me if in like 2026 onwards that it'll be much more automated than it is today.
Mhm.
So yeah, and speaking of like, using AI and agents, and your work is mainly within the UX space rather than making hamburgers or fries. So how, if you're a design engineer or UX engineer, I don't know the correct terminology, but someone working in UX, where do you think AI is helping today? Like with, if I join your team as a designer, how can I leverage AI to be more productive?
Mhm. Okay, for example, let's start with UX, like user experience. This process includes like blueprinting of every journey of the user inside application. Like if I will like sign up inside application, this email is already taken. What I would do, like I need some kind of tooltip, or I'm trying to sign in, I have no access to my email. So all these corner cases needs to be like think out of the box.
Mm,
And here, if we're talking about the regular situation about sign up and sign in, it's pretty clear to everyone. But if we're talking about very old legacy software which needs to be updated to the next level, it's really hard. The first, understand the domain subject. Jesus Christ, it's really very, very hard. Like last week, I had a call with a client, their software 25 years old. So I
mm,
was 10 when they already created that software. Design and UX was created same time. So, and it's very technical, very deep technical software where like IT support, IT admins, they can migrate or sync data from very old databases like manufacturers, etc., to their head office to create dashboards.
mm.
So it's hard to understand like what's its like PDP database. Like I have no idea. There was like no subject in university like PDP basis. Oh my god. But I can start talking with ChatGPT and say, okay, assume I'm 5 years old. Can you explain this to me? How it works? What's like the main reason of this? Why it works this way? Then ChatGPT, please assign to you this role, like IT admin person who manage this.
Mm,
What will be your process and how you see the process of transferring data? And ChatGPT, yeah, guys, it can hallucinate. Be careful. There can be something really strange in the middle of this conversation. But it can explain to you the whole flow. Oh, now it makes sense. Because still, the biggest problem that we have in IT right now and for past 30 years, nobody can give us clear requirements. Nobody. So we will be totally replaced only when our clients and our stakeholders will be like, they will be able to provide very extensive and full requirements without ChatGPT hallucinations to another AI. Then, yes. But for example, also in our work, when we understand the domain model, then we move into the flows and variations of the UX. And it helps, for example, if we do in the landing pages or marketing websites, there is very important thing, the conversion.
mm,
Every website in this world is created to convert leads into contact data. That's only one thing that they need to do. And how to test it, by the way. There are a lot of AI solution which generates heat maps. So heat map itself, it's like a map overall your image of the website, how user will read it with eyes and how user will move the cursor around the page. And you can see, for example, if your design like that you need to test or review is made that way that the heat map
mm.
is in one like heat very hot place in one place and your call to action button totally in different place and oh I'm sorry we have a problem. because like people read like in a Z letter.
Mhm.
All information like in a zigzags. We call it that way. So here also like an option where like QA can meet AI as well as UX designers. And the probably the latest thing is mood boards. For example, when client come to us, they say, we want something very professional. Thank you very much. This information was like not
Yeah,
very useful. We need more details because professional level even of this professional depends on the target audience. So for
absolutely.
example, if you're testing the design or you're testing the software or you need to provide some feedback on the UI and UX, you need to ask about target audience because for example, if your target audience kids and your application is, I don't know, blue and white and no illustrations or nothing, no one, no kids. There is no kids in this world who gonna be enjoyed of this application. But if we're doing like a fintech and there is like a
Mhm.
fancy illustration or anything else, again, we script. So here is important understanding the target audience, and you can talk with ChatGPT. Okay, we're doing such application. Provide us a vision of different target audiences and different use cases for this software. Then provide demographic groups like age, gender, maybe geography, etc. Next one, tell us more about these people. For example, if there is more women, then you need to have a lot of stock and emotional photos. If there is men, then you need to follow like logical chains and guidelines. That's how the buying like intents work. And to clarify from the client, hey, I want something with blue and white, something like Apple, but with a Nike vibe. We sit and like, okay, we have no ideas. Like, what? We can upload all the screenshots to the ChatGPT, upload the brand book, upload the old website screenshot, and ask like Midjourney, Gemini, a Flat Icon AI, or ChatGPT generate us a mood boards. It's some really, it's a some hallucinations. I can't call it like a proper designs. It's not aligned, etc. But it can give us some ideas of vibes or something to talk with a client right now, to talk with the
Mm.
stakeholders and hey guys, do you like this blue plum or this blue plum? That okay,
Mm.
this is better. Okay. And we at least can facilitate them based on all of these like generated. If, for example, the real designer will do these mood boards, it will take 20 hours. Like nobody gonna pay for it, to be honest.
I
So
see. So you're saying, we can use AI to generate some images to help refine the requirements. You can kind of go, this is roughly what we want. A designer can now take it forwards if the client agrees. And I mean, that's something like, I've been playing with, like generating some images and some logos, and the output's not good enough to use yourself in industry because it looks very AI generated. Firstly, but B, it's also it's not quite exactly what you want. Maybe right? It gives you a very similar kind of vibe, but it's not exactly the image and doesn't look exactly professionally created in exactly the way. But it is a lot easier than in the old days where you'd have to write a text to a logo designer or a graphic designer and say, these are my requirements, this is a rough sketch. And AI is like a first attempt of what you want. And I think that's really, I can see the value in that.
yeah, like for example, I think you probably also know how many there are like freelancers or companies who provide like, I will design your logo for $50.
Yeah.
And the output,
AI.
yeah,
um, so yeah, on Fiverr, for example, so for the Tech and Test podcast, right? So a few years back, I got someone to create a logo. It does not look AI generated. It was quite nice, and I thought maybe I'll spruce it up and get some new get a designer working on it. So one of my weaknesses is design. I don't do design well. I usually outsource it to someone else to help me do it. So I got some designer, and I paid about $50 to get someone to design it. I accepted the work, but I'm not using the work just because it looks very AI generated, right? So then I'm thinking, if they can AI generate it, that's not what I think a designer should be doing. Maybe they can use some AI elements within the work, maybe, but I do want to see some human attempt at trying to meet my requirements. And it does make me wonder, are a lot of people on like Fiverr or other applications just using Midjourney or different AI platforms just to kind of monetize of these AI agents, and rather than putting the actual work in?
Yeah, that's a big problem. So, for example, people like designers, I can call them like the real designers who created like did logos for 50 bucks, and I don't know, it's totally like usually it's a disaster, like some
Yeah.
encryption, one letter, some old style glyphs. So no, they are probably will be replaced with AI because the input from the AI better. But like a week ago, I have launched my consultancy agency, additional like for CEOs and for companies. And it's like, okay, I need a logo, I need a brand book. And
Yeah.
it's like putting it in AI generators, like at least to understand the vibe, what I want, like
Mm.
what to provide reference to my designers. And yeah, I quickly like grabbed the vibe. I found the font that's suitable. Okay, and now when I have the requirements, I can send it to the real person because I say, okay, we need to have the idea, some idea. We do consultancy then that should be like it's called head office. Yeah, it's boring. It's very boring, but it's helpful for finding me and say, okay, let's move like with open doors. Some idea like, oh, doors is open. I can't explain this to the AI. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
it's wooden, like real wooden doors on the logo. I was like, I'm not like the door manufacturer. Jesus, no, no.
Mm.
But then designer got the idea and she
Mm.
used two options. Two options, one is accepted.
I see. So what you think there is, the missing piece, I think, for the AI model is the human critical thinking and context, right? That
Yeah.
we don't literally mean a door; we mean what it represents emotionally or within that particular context. And I think that critical thinking is, these AI agents at the moment don't do critical thinking, right? They are
So,
statistical models that they look like they're doing thinking, but there's no thinking there. And there's actually a paper that was published by Apple to sort of show that as well. And maybe there was another paper which sort of backlashed that paper. But the key thing is, I don't think we have sentient agents yet. There's no sentience. Now, that's up for debate because you can speak to someone, who's into philosophy and talk about, does the memory within the chatbot, is that an experience that the chatbot is experiencing? And, it opens up, conversations around, can machines actually have any sentience and any, does the memory there within those neural nets, within that model, is that chatbot experiencing something? And that's something that is hard to quantify, right? Because it opens the realm of philosophy and opens the realm of consciousness. What is consciousness? But I think we do enter this sort of world of, in my approach, critical thinking with a human. I think you can tell easily if a human is applying critical thinking, where the machines, it's very much driven by content that's been created by humans. So therefore, to think that these machines are going to be superior, where they are superior though, is humans tend to look at information like within a sentence at a time. Where I'm asking AI agents, and I can give them legal contracts and say, look at these 5 legal contracts, right? And you got to be careful. You got to take some personal information out of these, and you got to be careful where you put these contracts into AI. But it can give me a table of differences across these like 5 contracts within a few seconds, right? And I was reading these legal contracts manually, and it's very hard to look at the details sometimes. I skipped that word or I skipped that sentence, but actually the AI did not skip that and actually it was really good at summarizing that information in a table for me to look at in like a 10-minute window and really analyze the contracts carefully and look at the key points and remove the garbage and jargon that was there to try and confuse me. So I think actually, this is where the power is, right? With AI, it can go off on the internet. It can bring loads of information in at one point in time and condense it. And I don't think humans are good at doing that. I don't think humans are good at absorbing loads of information at once and trying to condense it.
Yeah, agree. Like the critical thinking is really important, but in the same time, we feed in our AI with already generated information. Like the Reddit, all of this is going to feed ChatGPT. But we all know what's happening on Reddit. Guys, there is some conversation just I don't know, even AI can hallucinate like that, and it's what? Like you read a story, like, do you have a brain? Like, what are you saying? What? And there is like no experts, for example, in data cleansing departments,
Mm,
gonna say this information is good, it's quality.
mm,
And this information is like, okay, that's so so. And this information, just forget about it. If you will see it, it's like a real good example of very bad information. It's not okay. It's just makes zero sense. And there is like no systems which can leverage or differentiate good and bad. The same as we talk about the logo, it creates different options. Why there is no creativity? Because nobody say to like to Midjourney, hey, when you're creating the logo, here is like a different ways to do it in the creative way. Here is the bad way. It's like everybody's sick of this and it wouldn't work. Nobody want that. And
yeah.
say, okay, and then like Midjourney say, okay, let's go. Here is your output. No, nothing of that.
Awesome. So just switching gears a little bit to UX and testing. So, as you mentioned, you were a QA engineer before. I still work in testing. I'm involved in testing processes, to automation, right? Coming up with testing strategy. I guess one thing to mention here is, what's your opinion on testing process? Or maybe, put it a different way. If you create a new design, when should testing be involved within that design?
Yeah, that's really a good question. So the very first like design process, how it works. We create in the user flow like a huge block schema of how whole application works. The second stage, we create the wireframes. So grayscale copy of final design without real fonts, without icons, and without colors. And the third one, the biggest challenge is to create final UI. So I think the quality assurance engineer can be involved on every of each these steps. So what I'm talking about on the user flow, the QA assigning to the project can review. Okay, these are all conditions on their place. What will happen if this favorite question of all QA engineers. What's gonna happen if I will press this button? What's gonna happen? How are we gonna validate username? How many symbols I need to enter in a search before it's really will start searching? If I am deleting my account, how the process gonna looks like on the back end, on the front end, what we will show to the user, etc. So there are at first, there are like Nelson Norman group,
Mhm.
uh, the guys who piloting user experience for decades. There are like around 35 different laws of UX. I think every QA engineer, every tester must know them. So it's the first. The second one, when we talking about the logic, user navigation, etc., it's really important to assign QA because like designers, they are not so tech savvy. They're about like makeup, look and feel. Oh, is it easy to drag with a finger? But they often doesn't think about what we are holding with our finger. What sense of doing that? Like is it really a good way to set up account to go with like field by field? Maybe there is a better way, or
Mm,
business requires more information. And here, when technical side and design side can start meeting, because when it usually happens, designers hand off the design to development team, developers develop something, and then only when it's handed to the quality assurance process stage, yep, you start seeing, oh my God, what's going on? And to be honest, it's almost an end of the story. It's like you in one step of finishing development. And even like before development is started, review the design, it's too late. Because
mm,
cost of error, cost of
yeah.
mistake increases on every each step. For example, fix it on the user flow will cost few dollars. In total, like user flow for even very big project will take 80 hours, 120 hours. Every screen, it's like a yellow posted sticker, nothing more. Then when we go into the wireframes, we start talking about hour or two to fix something, because it possibly it can take mm, advantages not for one screen, but you can have a huge chain of changes that right now needs to be updated. All screens, for example, a few years ago, we had a problem where we forgot the paywall in mobile application. Just imagine some data in application and user goes with a free account, then okay, he sees by now, but there is features that needs to be shown after the paywall and show, okay, upgrade your account to this tier and receive this perk, to other like premium tier and you will receive more perks. They forgot.
Mm,
Do they had examples in front of their eyes? Of course, like Tinder is already like 10 years old application or whatever.
mm,
Nobody like critical thinking about, okay, what we are doing. So here the quality assurance guys can say, okay, but what if? And designers, oh, the situation happened. And as more people we will have who can ask reasonable questions like, hey guys, what gonna happen in this case? Or did you like recognize it? This flow? Why? What's happening? And then the designs becomes better. When the design becomes better, then the development will be better because it will make sense for the developers. When I was developer, oh my gosh, that was like horror stories. Client came to us with the designs like 12 screens. I have everything designed. I need only these 12 screens. No transactional screens, zero states. Like every screen can go in empty state, in filtered state, in few
mm,
lines of information state, in scrollable state, pagination. None of that. We're asking, okay, what will be if there will, I don't know, 200 records? Oh, I don't know. Think about it.
mm,
Developers are not thinking about it. They're solving tasks. So what gonna do developer? He will go to any controls website or GitHub, find the most rated third-party library and just integrate it. No color updates, no UX, nothing. And then client paid for some user experience, yeah, for the design, but in the end, it doesn't solve the problem. It didn't solve the problem, and it's a corner case. And here, when QA and testers can come and say, "Hey guys, your design is very nice, but it's totally useless." That's what's happening to 90% of different designs that I'm seeing in internet every day. Like I'm in jury in Behance. I'm browsing the dribble, all of that. And to be honest, nice images, very creative, zero usability, zero.
mm,
So it's like the very first point. The second, I think it will be very useful for our listeners today. Check accessibility. Accessibility is a king right now. So the contrast of colors. Is font is big enough? Is font is bold enough? Is font contrast to the background enough? And especially guys, always pay huge attention to the user generated content. Oh my god, right now will be like insights for everyone. So when we testing the user generated content, for example, Instagram, everybody knows like the reels. So pay attention to the bottom. You can write down like pretty long text there. What will happen if the real background will be very white and the text is also white? And there's, yes, some shadow fade is present there, but mostly it's impossible to read. So it's like it's huge UX mistake. And always when you receive a handoff from the designers, they will put so nice images. It will be juicy. It will be very contrast. It will be amazing. Like the same avatars in SaaS software. Does anybody puts avatar there? No. If you sign up with email, it will be your avatar like till death. But in all other ways, you will have that placeholder. But like, designers don't pay attention to that. And if we're talking about user-generated content, ask designers to replace it to the white square, to the black square. Download the most ugly image from 90s with huge pixelization, etc., and ask to put it also like on the design. And see how their faces will be changed.
Very good points. Very good tips. Yeah. So I think accessibility is a big thing, right? If you look at, I think it's like 1 billion users are disabled, and from a testing perspective, I published a paper when I was working on my master's and at Google, and it was on using multiple accessibility evaluation tools. So Axe, Wave, there were some other tools on there. I think that's 5. I can't remember them all now, but I basically ran the accessibility checker on some university websites, and I found that there's different results from each different tool. So the experiment was basically you need to have an ensemble of tools to run if you're going to do some manual and automated. So that's the other thing, right? To get the success criteria from the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, you need to do some manual testing as well. You can't just give it to a tool and the tool just spits out, these are your A or AAA or AA failures, right? Or we don't call them failures. We call them like issues that the tool have found. But essentially I found it was quite interesting that the standards are the same, right? The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.2, whatever they are. But each tool, the implementer of each tool makes decisions and rules which are a little bit different for each tool. So you can get different results depending on which tool you pick. And that's also a challenge. And also the key thing is, like, I found like 50% of the success criteria was not covered by any of these tools. So you still need to have someone that is like a domain expert, I guess, in accessibility testing to kind of go through it and check that it does actually conform with the guidelines, because some of these are really tricky to automate some of those tests.
Yeah, and don't forget still like critical thinking from started today our conversation, because you can trust to all the tools like on 100%, but at least these tools can highlight problems. Like you checked, for example, it's good. It's like contrast enough, everything good. I can read everything, and then to have okay, you have like less paddings that it needs to be. Oh, yeah. And again, you get the point and you have some proof to talk to the stakeholders. Because to be honest, in quality assurance world, you like have pushes from two sides. Development team, they says, no, it's not a bug, it's a feature. Then the stakeholders yelling on you 24/7, like, hey, finding the stupid bugs, nobody will find the bug. We need to go to the release SAP. And you're like in the middleman or woman, whatever. And that's real the problem. And at least these tools can give you input to talk with the stakeholders. And you can use AI and say, okay, find an arguments for me.
Mm.
Like I have found this problem in a software testing process. So what I should do? What will be my arguments to go to the business? It's also like really important.
But I think the key thing you've mentioned here is critical thinking is like one of the skills, right? When we talk about where does AI help a UX designer, critical thinking still steps in, right? How does it help a QA engineer or software engineering test or whatever? That's also key, right? Critical thinking. Are we building the right products, right? Is this, like you mentioned with the paywall example, it requires critical thinking to notice that may have been missed in the requirements, right? Someone should have asked, is this actually what the client wants at some point within the process? Just that question would have opened up that discussion, and that may have been enough for someone to go, yes, paywalls, we need to do that. So I think the key thing here is critical thinking's not going anywhere. If anything, maybe we need more critical thinking with more of these AI tools that we have.
Of course, totally agree. Like 1000% agree because the critical thinking for last years, I feel like people with critical thinking becomes more rare. I don't.
Yeah.
The next thing I don't know who I will met with higher probability, dinosaur or person with critical thinking. To be honest, like people want this clear instruction. They don't want to take responsibility. They don't want to think
Mm,
the box. Like the same people from the call center follow the script, for example.
mm,
They want it because it's easy. It's
mm,
to understand, it's easy to measure, everything's easy. But this will be replaceable. But if you, for example, you have experience with in different domain subjects, you have experience with best practices inside it, because ChatGPT, oh, you can try just enter like best practices in the fintech mobile application. It will hallucinate from A to Z. It will provide you pure water. Like even my diploma had more sense than this response from ChatGPT. And overall, the more critical thinking you will bring to the table, the more experienced and more reasonable solutions you're gonna bring, you're not replaceable for next 10 years. I don't know what needs to happen for this person to be replaced.
I wonder if now in this age of AI, that like employment processes or interview processes will be adapted to specifically look more for critical thinking if they're not already doing that. Because if we now know everyone's got an AI agent they can use to do some of their work for them, if not, it'll be varying percentages on how much of their work can be done by AI. But what's going to be critical is, can you use the AI efficiently? I.e., are you using enough critical thinking with the AI as well? And I wonder how we integrate that more into the process, right? In the past, people used to bring maybe portfolios of, these are some UX designs I've done before, or here's some code I've written on GitHub on this open source project. But given with AI agents taking on more of that responsibility with generating more code and generating more images, I wonder how we test if human critical thinking is there, right? And or the person has those behavioral attributes that they apply human critical thinking more. So I wonder if that's going to change how we hire people. If
Hmm, It's really like, it's tough. I agree, it's tough. And right now, it's not even like about AI. Like I'm hiring people for last 12 years and it's challenge. It's really big challenge. When person comes with a portfolio, to be honest, you don't know it can be stolen.
yeah,
The code the same. It can be stolen. The God bless that person if it's fully generated with a ChatGPT. You just okay, the
yeah,
algorithms, alignment, tabs, they are in place. So you see, okay, it's not this person code. And the critical thinking, nothing changed to like in software development, in architectures, um, like patterns of software development since like the Band of Four written all their books.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything the same, like the refactoring, the clean code, everything here. But ChatGPT doesn't take it as even as a consideration.
Yeah.
It's like the real task. But to be honest, like any project, any bigger project like than Hello World, you open there are thousands of classes, thousands of functions, etc. And not always ChatGPT can understand, okay, I need to reuse this function, then call this one, then create extension to additional to third one, and then just create 3 lines of code. No, 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 no. ChatGPT will produce like the linen of the code. And in the end, like it will be same supportable. For example, 12 years ago, there were like for mobile application, there were generators on the JavaScript. So you write buttons or drag and drop some interfaces and it generates the JavaScript code. Then it tries to interpret it to the Objective-C or Java. And in the end, it's impossible to edit. It's like a dream viewer when we are trying to generate
Yeah.
HTML. It's a lot of information, a lot of code that not even needed. 99% if you will throw away, you will still get your result. So here I think is also like it's easier to check both sides on the interview trying to cheat. I know like all these applications when you just put your iPhone here, it hears what like interviewer says and prepare you an answer. But I'm trying to ask in questions not like Google. Okay, how many tennis balls
Yeah.
fail in a bus? But something to see how person thinks.
Yeah.
Because like years ago, everyone started talking about soft skills. Yeah, like emotional intelligence, etc. A few months ago, like again, it was proven there is no emotional intelligence in us. It's like totally some myth that everybody spread. So right now, people again said, okay, he's a good person, but he's awful like manager or hard skill worker. He's awful like in design, for example, but as a communicator, the best. But we're not hiring like a very good communicator. We need to have the mix. So on interview, you can start with asking about the soft skills, like if there is a problem, what you gonna do? And the ChatGPT, it's always will provide a very straightforward answer, like if you have a problem, go and solve it. Something like
Yeah.
but
Again, is the critical thinking, right? Which creeps in.
yes, 100%. But when we check in, for example, the hard skills, I know as a developer, I hated it. Like on the interview, when you need to share your screen and do some coding, because you need some atmosphere. You need your coffee, I don't know, you need your cigarette, whatever somebody needs, like as a doping, but you need to be concentrated. And when you're stressed, it's not the best point. But you can check the primitive stuff, like how person thinks. Okay, the
Mm.
code it's not required to be working. But for example, for the designers, I'm asking, can you pull like the iPhone wireframe, 2 buttons, and I don't know, do sign up screen in 10 minutes. I will walk away and I will come back in 10 minutes, do whatever you want. Just show me the sign up screen. And there is no AI who will generate all the frames, etc. But if person has no idea how to do the out layout, how to use components, or how to open in other window, other project, and just freely copy paste it, because still you need the, like creativity to just copy paste and read it in front of eyes of interviewer, yeah, it will work. But to be honest, 60% of resumes that we receive it, people who come into the technical interview, they can do anything in Figma, but they're very good speakers. They pass HR, they pass like recruiter, portfolio is amazing, colors, everything makes sense, information that comes from this person, amazing.
Mm-mm.
Going to the hard skill, zero.
That's interesting, right? And I think, as a coder, um, the way you get better at coding is just by doing it. And I know, it's hard sometimes, not, before the days of AI, people had to actually code and actually do coding. And now I think people get lazy, right? And I still do a lot of leak code exercises just to kind of practice and it's almost like you go to the gym. If you go to the gym, you want to exercise a muscle, right? And in that case, you go to the leak code gym to exercise your mind muscle on coding. And I think if people are not willing to put the hard work in, it will eventually be found out in a process, whatever that process is. Because I feel like there's no substitute for hard work in terms of just hours, of doing something. And there's a certain book which says that 10,000 hours of to be an expert or proficient at something, you need to do 10,000 hours of that. So if you do 10,000 hours of coding, you're probably going to be quite good at coding. 10,000 hours of design, maybe you'll be good at design. And I just think if you've done enough hours, it may not have to be 10,000, but if you've done enough hours, eventually I think you'll have enough information and experience to kind of bring something together to convince someone that you can do something.
Yeah, of course. But plus, if you will add critical thinking and all the time you will evaluate your results at
Mm,
doing it in a good way. Are there other options like
yes.
anxiety for IT guys? Anxiety is the best friend, to be honest, because it's not like the trash what I'm doing. Like maybe it's so bad. I need to check. I need to check,
Mm,
double checking, etc. Not all developers following it. Like some developers using QA people like as their debugger. I
that's not great. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like minus to these people. But when you're thinking, okay, can do this better? AI never will ask this question. If it works only this way. There is like
Yeah.
different options, or you can say, okay, ChatGPT, this text is perfect, but let's make it better. It will just generate one more option. It's nothing about like to leverage it to the next level.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about, if you're iterating with AI and you're sort of using prompts to iterate and get an output, it's very difficult to get it to change the previous output incrementally because you'll say, add this window to this design, and it'll just give you like a whole brand new design with a window in it, right? So I think, and the same for code, right? Which is also, so I find actually technical interviews, if I'm asking someone a coding question in a technical interview, it's better to ask them, here's some existing code, what can you tell me about it? What's right? What's wrong? Maybe what would you do better to improve it? Because then it's very difficult to get an AI agent to kind of improve that. Where if I say to someone, implement quicksort algorithm in Python, right? Um, they could use AI to do that, and the AI would give them a solution. But it's very difficult to take something that already exists, modify it in a very particular way that we want, and you would also explain to me what you see and what you observe, and that also tells me a lot about critical thinking skills.
Yeah, totally agree because like I see no ways with like AI to go really with incremental things. You highlight
Yeah.
it's amazing highlight because like it will redo. Even like I've tried what I'm doing. I'm sometimes I need to automate process in my company, and it's like there is like not so many free software developers. Usually it's on me, and it helps me to keep connection with my roots. So I really enjoying it. And I'm just asking ChatGPT, write down me this script for script in Jira regarding this version of Cloud. Yeah, it creates. But if some updates in SDK, you screwed.
Yeah.
You're totally out of this game because ChatGPT receives updates like with some delay, huge delays. Okay, not some delays. And then in the end, you can automate it with ChatGPT. You can do this, but there is no option. The same will be, for example, for mobile developers, iOS developers, every September when the new iOS released, and you need somehow to run your project with fall apart, just every single class falling apart, the syntax updated, the project structure updated,
Mm,
stakeholders push on you because they have
mm.
this time. And what you gonna do? You can only ask ChatGPT how to stop crying. That's
Yeah, very good point. Thank you, Oksana. You've gone through a lot of your insights, and I can just tell it's based on experience. That these are just projects and battle scars from different projects that you've experienced, and really appreciate you telling the Tech and Test audience and sharing your insights into UX and how to cope with all the different intricacies. And one theme that's come out of this episode is critical thinking is not being replaced. That's definitely staying. So that's as a listener to this podcast myself, I'd also be thinking like that. That's a nice warmth that humanity brings to the workforce is that critical thinking, and there should be more of that critical thinking. So AI does have its place, but critical thinking is not yet taken by AI. So I think that's very powerful, I think.
Mhm. Totally agree. Thank you very much for the invitation. It was very warm and very interesting conversation. I hope listeners will enjoy and take it from here.
Awesome. And if people want to find out more about you or your company, where should they reach you from?
You can follow me on Twitter. You can find my company. It's anoda.mobi. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, Oksana Kovalchuk. I'm there. You feel free to reach me out if you want to ask anything.
Awesome. Thank you, Oksana. Thank you for sharing your insights on Tech and Test. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.